Thank you everyone for joining me here. I have Bryan with me, who has been my client for the last couple of weeks, and we've done some incredible work together. And he has been so generous and kind to share his feedback, his experience, the results that he's gained while working with me. And I'd love to welcome Bryan here to this live stream on Facebook so we can dive a little deeper into how his transformation has occurred. So thank you, Bryan, for joining me here this evening.
No, thank you, Krystallee. Yeah, I'm happy to be here, happy to support you and our journey.
I love that. Thank you. So why don't you tell our viewers what it was like before working with me? How was life like?
Well, actually, here's kind of interesting, Crystal. And I think I told you this. I basically, if you had asked me in 2021, okay, what childhood traumas did I have? I would have told you two. I would have told you I got punched at age 10 by my dad. I would have told you I poured salt on my green beans. Dad didn't like that. Mom defended me. Dad proceeded to try to push mom down the stairs. I defended her by blocking the stairwell, basically saved her life. And I would have told you those are my two traumas. I would have never mentioned a divorce. Okay. It just never crossed my mind. Okay. But suddenly it reappeared about 7 weeks ago in my life.
Right. And so how did that affect you on a daily basis?
What's interesting is, okay, I'm age 58. Okay, this happened 45 years ago. You'd think, I'm like, oh yeah, 45 years ago, Bryan, is in the past. Okay, it shouldn't affect you. It affects me. I love my wife. I love my kids. I've been married next month 32 years, and it affected my relationship with my wife because I was drawing parallels between my parents' marriage, their divorce, and afraid that my wife was going to divorce me. And
Mm.
I had a lot of suicidal thoughts of that too, to be honest.
And so how was that affecting your relationship?
I was afraid to talk to my wife at all, okay? Because I'm like, all right, if I make a misstep, she's going to want to divorce me, even the littlest things. I would notice the littlest things that I did wrong. Okay, I'm like, she's going to divorce me. Okay, I know she's going to divorce me. In fact, I got to the point where basically I had to sit down with her. She said, no, I'm not leaving you. I even called her sister, okay, and she's very close to her sister. Her sister said, no, she's not divorcing you. And the facts did not align with what my thoughts were, but it was so emotional for me, I couldn't let go of that.
Yes. I remember when we first started, it was just this really heavy sense of your parents' divorce and how that affected you in your later age now, and that memory of your childhood just reoccurring again. What would you say really helped you move through that memory?
I would say so. A lot of it was just simply talking to you, okay, and also too, you helping me kind of reframe what I was thinking, okay. And it wasn't overnight. It wasn't like suddenly, Crystal, you had some magic wand you waved over me. Oh yeah, I'm better, Crystal. Okay, we're done with this now. It doesn't work that way. And I would have some days after I talk to you, I'm like, yeah, I'd have the next day be good. The next 2 days I'm good, and then suddenly I'd hit that peak. I'm like, oh, this was not a good day today, okay. And I'd have to reframe, and then I'd have to set another meeting with you, and we'd have to do kind of a reset again.
Right. So I
And
think,
it's not linear either as far as recovery.
yeah, and explain that a little bit more. What do you mean by it's not linear?
It would be nice if it was linear because linear would be okay, nice, even keel, okay, no big highs, no big lows. Oh, there were some days, Crystal, I'm like, all right, I was miserable. Okay, this is the day she's going to leave me. She's going to open up the store here. She's going to surprise me just with my parents with the divorce. I didn't see my parents' divorce coming. And I was drawing those complete parallels.
Mm, right. So I'd love to pivot on how it was for you working with me, because I know you've done a lot of work on yourself. You've gone to therapy, you've done some EMDR. What would you say was different while working together?
One, we were only talking about one topic. With my other therapist, I'd be talking about other different topics. So we wouldn't stay gravitated just on one topic. I only talked to you about the divorce and about maybe the salt and green beans. There was only really one item I was talking to you about. It was very focused.
The focused work. And how do you feel like that focused work helped you transform?
It just let me concentrate. Okay, like we focused only on my one pain point. And Crystal, to be honest with you, I'm like, I broke down a couple of times when I talked to you. Okay, I'm like, all right, I'm not usually the type of person that does that. Okay, but it was so painful at the time for me. And you were kind. You basically let me walk through it. Okay, you let me recover. Okay, and I remember there were some sessions with you. It was like the peaks and valleys. I would start out okay, and then it would gravitate, it would elevate, and then it would come back down again, okay, and I'm just not used to that.
Mm. And I remember at one point you said that you were taught that men don't express their emotions and they don't show their vulnerability. How do you feel about that now after gaining your result?
That's completely inaccurate. Number one, okay, here's what I do know too. Most men don't see therapists because they're supposed to tough it out, okay, which is a bunch of BS, by the way. Two is, okay, Rory, I grew up thinking there were two bad emotions. Okay, the bad emotions were anger because of my family that led to violence, or sadness because boys don't ever get sad. And in fact, I remember after my parents' divorce, neither parent ever asked me how I was feeling. I was mad for 3 years because basically I thought it caused their divorce because we were pouring salt on the green beans. Now, obviously, being an adult, I know that's not true, but being 13, they divorced 2 weeks right after that. I clearly saw cause and effect.
Mm. I'd love to actually ask you too, what was one profound thing that you learned from working together about yourself?
Actually, one thing that really resonated with me, Crystal, and I didn't realize at the time, you basically told me, okay, number one, Bryan, be kind to yourself. Two, forgive yourself. I must have thought about that for at least an entire week if you said that to me. Because I mean, here's what I do know. I was the hardest person on myself. Okay, if I had my best friend sitting next, he would have been saying, okay, Bryan, number one, look at the facts. Two is, okay, why are you beating yourself up? Okay, three is, okay, you were actually a hero for saving your mom's life. Most 13-year-old kids are not probably not going to do that.
Yeah, for sure. What would you say are some of the great things that you've gained from working together for yourself?
One is, okay, being more open and honest. Also, two, okay, I'm like not being so afraid to talk to my wife. Hell, I've known her for, if you include dating, I've known her for 34 years now. It's a long time. And Crystal, not once did she ever mention divorce. Not once did she ever mention leaving me. I can't remember the last time we had a significant fight. Okay. And there were some positives too. Basically, we're getting our will and trust done. She's not going to spend $5,000 getting a will and trust done if she's leaving me. Uh, she's not going to agree to go to marriage counselor if she doesn't think it's worthwhile for us to be together.
Yeah, for sure.
And what I did too was like, this is very hard for me. My wife doesn't know how much my heart was beating on my chest. I met with my wife actually a week ago. My heart's beating on my chest. I actually wrote out a note to her as far as what I wanted to do. And basically, I basically was very vulnerable to her. So basically, talked to her. Okay, and you and I talked about this. Actually, I remember this. Because I told her what I was. I told her I'm anxious as attachment style. I told her why I had anxious attachment style. Told her what I needed, and she kind of giggled at the end. And I was very afraid of that because all right, she's not taking me seriously. Okay, and she's going to leave me. And then you and I talked, and I felt better after you and I talked. That it's really not a reflection of me.
Right. So overall, then, after I think we did 5 or 6 sessions together,
Yeah,
why do you think you responded so well to this?
I would say, Crystal, I said this before. I think I said this first meeting. Crystal, I will do handstands here if I thought it would help us. Okay, there's nothing that, and I told you, like I'm an open book. There's no question you cannot ask me. It might be painful. I might have to pause, but I'm not going to leave the session. I'm not going to abandon. I'm not going to shut down the Zoom meeting. And we'll go from there. Okay, and you were fine with that. And basically, I felt very safe talking to you. And there wasn't anything I felt I couldn't tell. I could not tell you.
Mm. And I think that does help people when they want to transform as rapidly as you do, is that they have to open themselves up and be brave enough to step into those vulnerable spaces within them. And I believe even at some point you said you were willing to have a lobotomy just to get this out of your system. And it feels like we've achieved that really quickly.
Well, actually, Crystal, like, here's what I do know. Okay, never going to forget about the green beans. I'm never going to forget about the divorce. In fact, I even know to this day. I think I shared this with you. I know the exact street corner my mom told me. I know the time was 2:32 p.m. in the afternoon. I could tell you where the sun was. This was 45 years ago, and I can picture both of those like it happened yesterday.
Yeah,
But what it's not doing, Crystal, now is it's not, number one, it's not dominating me. Two is I'm not agonizing it over every day. Okay, three is I can do things that are pleasurable for me and it's not invading that territory. And four, okay, I'm like, I don't feel right now that my wife is leaving me, which is most
right.
important.
Absolutely, it is. So going to the whole notion of being confident and proud, what's that like?
Crystal, I haven't been here in 2 months, okay, and it was all because of the divorce. Okay, and thinking my wife was going to leave me. I even told people at church too. I'm a train wreck. I can't even show up to church, okay, which is very unusual to me. Usually, I'm at church every week, okay. So I feel confident what who I am. I feel confident what I represent, okay. I don't feel like I'm a train wreck again, okay. Can I have setbacks? Yes. Okay. But that's life. Okay. Humans can have setbacks. Okay. But I don't think I'm going to go off the rails where I'm going to be back to where I was, say, 6 weeks ago.
Amazing. So, Bryan, what would you say to other men out there or other people who are struggling in their marriage? What would you say to them?
First thing I would say is okay, number one, recognize where you're at. Two is recognize your emotions, recognize what your emotions are telling you. Because actually, people, I have various emotions. I would get angry at my mom because, okay, how could she not explain the divorce better to me? How could she not even thank me for saving her life? Okay. My dad never even talked about the divorce. Okay. I got 30 seconds of the talk of the divorce. Okay. Ever. Okay. And I'd be angry, and then I'd feel guilt, okay, about why did I pour salt and green beans, okay, why did I drop my book bag and get punched, okay. So all the emotions are normal, okay. All the emotions you have the range, okay, but just I would say other men just recognize your emotions that you're going through, okay. Also, too, seek support like you, Crystal, or others, okay. If you can't afford that, I do know there's churches that you can reach out to or social services as well, okay. So but I would say, number one, don't bury it because bury it's going to make it worse. Okay. Crystal, I probably could have gotten through this without you, but number one, it would have been harder. Two is I think it would have been longer. Three is I think it would have been more painful.
Right. And I think that that would be really good advice for a lot of people because I believe a lot of people bury it, which is why it surfaces a lot later in life.
Well, Crystal, I didn't mention this before. I'm age 58. Okay. I basically never, if you had asked me back in my teens, back in my 20s, my 30s, my 40s, if I had any traumas, I'd be like, no, I don't have any traumas. I thought every dad punched their 10-year-old kid in the stomach. I thought every dad tried to push mom down the stairs. Okay. That was my normal at the time. I didn't realize it was trauma until 2021.
Right. So at 2021, when it became a trauma, what were some of the things that you used to try to deal with it at the time?
Well, actually, Crystal, good news. Okay, I only spent 6 weeks with you basically. Okay, the trauma they had in 2021, I spent 3 months. Okay, that was my first childhood trauma, so it was all new territory for me. So I had CBT weekly, I had EMDR 8 sessions. I still remember this. I did that over every other week. Okay, that was incredibly painful. That was the hardest work I've ever done. Now, if I compare this trauma now to that trauma, I think this one was harder because I had more suicidal thoughts with this one. Okay. I had suicidal thoughts with that one too, but they weren't as prevalent.
Right. So, Bryan, what would you say is different about you now? What would you say is the biggest change that you've noticed?
I'm not focusing on the past. Okay. For the past 6 weeks, I've been only looking at the past. Okay. I'm like, it's sort of like driving a car. Okay. How do you drive a car? You look forward. Okay. You aren't looking in the rear view mirror. I was only looking in the rear view mirror. Well, I'm not going to drive the car very well if I'm only looking in the rear view mirror.
Course, yeah. Probably cause a collision for sure and hurt
I'm
yourself.
all, yeah. If I'm driving a car only looking in the rear view mirror, I'm probably going 5 miles an hour. I'm certainly not going 50, 60.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Bryan, for sharing that. Is there any last words that you'd love to share with people?
I would just say that the other comment would be too, okay, like this is a journey. Okay. It may take some people 2 weeks, it may take you a month, it may take you 6 months. Okay. There's no right or wrong. Okay. I would say just appreciate where you're at. Okay. And I would also say too, 1% improvement is still 1% improvement. Okay. Don't discount that ever.
Wow, that's really great advice for people. And I think something for them to also constantly remind themselves is that that is 1% better than yesterday. So I love that. Thank you. And thanks
Yeah.
for being an open book, working with me and sharing with people out there that need to hear how they can transmute childhood trauma into feeling confident and proud, working on building a secure marriage and relationship. I think people need to know that it is possible and you are a shining example of that.
And Crystal, by the way, again, I appreciate your effort, appreciate your work. Okay. Like, and again, I don't know, I don't want to compare myself to other people, but like, I was in a really bad spot when you and I first met. Okay. I was kind of a mess.
Yeah, for sure. And you were a mess for quite some time until we
Oh, yeah.
actually start working together. Amazing. I love that, Bryan. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Everyone, cheer Bryan on, congratulate him. He has really, done the work, and I'm super proud of him and grateful that he trusted in the help that was available and listened to himself and did the inner work. He did the heavy lifting. I can only, praise the amazing efforts that he put into healing and transmuting his trauma into something great. So thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see everybody later. Bye.
I think